Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to CSL Finance Limited Q2 FY 2022 earnings conference call hosted by Kanav Capital Advisors. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then zero on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Rohit Gupta from CSL Finance. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. CSL Finance welcomes you to the Q2 financial year 22 investor call. Thank you for taking out the time for attending this call. Now coming out to the financial performance, the total income increased by 13.49% to 17.16 crores in Q2 of this year as compared to 15.12 crores of Q2 of last year. Our pre-provisioning profit before tax was 10.6 crores in this quarter as compared to 10.61 of the previous quarter. PAT improved by 3.5% to 7.10 crores as compared to 6.86 crores of the previous quarter. The previous quarter of the last financial year. For half yearly numbers, the total income grew by 9.6% from 29.89 crores of this first half to from 29.89 crores of the last financial year, or the first half of the last financial year, to 32.76 crores in this financial year. Our PAT has grown from 1.66% from 13.88 crores in this first half as compared to 14.11 crores in the last financial year, the first half of the last financial year. Operational update. Our AUM increased by 12.53% to 377 crores in Q2 of this financial year as compared to 335 crores in Q2 of the last financial year. Our disbursement has remained flat at 92.23 crores in Q2 of this financial year as compared to rupees 90 crores of the last quarter. The last quarter of the last financial year. Disbursements has been muted largely on account of some wholesale accounts which were due for disbursement in the month of September but got postponed in the next quarter. Our collection declined by 14.78% from 87.29 crores in Q2 financial year 2021 to 74.38 crores in this financial year, in this quarter, because earlier our wholesale accounts were getting repaid within 15 to 18 months, and we focused to increase the tenure to 24 to 30 months, so as to reduce huge churning which we were witnessing in our wholesale portfolio. So this was an intentional intent to increase our tenure, and that's why the collections are down. Otherwise, the collections have been very good. AUM of wholesale segment increased by 17.47% to 316 crores in Q2 financial year 22 as compared to 269 crores in Q2 financial year 21. AUM of SME segment decreased by 7.57% to 61 crores in Q2 financial year 22 as compared to 66 crores in our Q2 of last financial year. This was primarily due to the provisions made during the last 12 months on account of our provisions in the largely on the school segment, and the disbursements were muted because of the COVID period prevailing during the last 12 months. And we are ramping our disbursement in the SME segment as we have rebuilt our team strength and increased sales people from 3 persons to 5 people, and now after COVID period going forward our disbursement in SME segment should increase substantially. The total employee count has increased from 168 from 117 of the last quarter of the last financial year. We have added Chief Operating Officer in our SME division, including Zonal Credit Head and Operations Head. Provisioning and NPA. Our GNPA has increased to 3.25% in Q2 of this financial year from 0.08% of the last quarter. Our NPA has increased to net NPA has increased to 1.79% in Q2 of this financial year from 0% in Q2 of the last financial year. The increase in NPA is largely on account of our school loan portfolio. We have adequately provisioned for the same, and we expect this segment to stabilize as schools have reopened up in the coming months. And our collections have also improved from 40-50% to 70% in this quarter. As a prudent risk management practice, we have provided the ECL provision of 9.21 crore as crore and an increase of 2.64 crore from 6.57 crore in Q2 of the last financial year. Treasury update. We have maintained comfortable level of liquidity and the cash and cash equivalents for 22.56 crores as on 30th September 2022. Our net 2021, our net debt has increased from 86 crores as on 31st March 2020 to 109 crores as on 30th September 2021. And we are now actively looking to raise more debt and to expand our balance sheet. Now, thanks everyone for participating on this phone call. Your questions are important for us, and we strive to be transparent in our investor communication. The economic activities have now started picking up, especially in the real estate sector, and demand from end consumer has substantially increased. We expect good demand for loans in our wholesale segment. We aim to maintain the high quality of our balance sheet while striving to grow our business in this financial year. Now I welcome questions from your side.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Vishal Prasad from VP Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon. So I have a few questions. Given that we have been more than prudent with our operations, could you share the rationale behind us getting into loan against securities?
Yeah. Hi, Vishal. It's Chandan this side, and I would like to take up this question. Look, Vishal, you would like to simply first demonstrate the number on the part that the WSLAS part is. That's roughly around a minimal of around 11 crore portfolio. So for LAP and LAS portfolio, the wholesale segment majorly consists of the 3 kind of products. That is the wholesale large, wholesale small, and that is the third one is the wholesale LAP or LAS kind of product. LAS is only very much selective to those customers against the cafe securities, which are very much referential based or which were very much known to us. Or either we have a very strong command over that kind of customer group or that kind of business entity itself. That's why a very minimal portfolio has been kept for last portion, and that's totally an opportunity-based lending. Otherwise, we don't have that much interest into this kind of portfolio itself, building up this kind of portfolio. That is a WS land.
Right. Thanks, Chandan. So I understand. I mean, probably 10 years back, we as a company were investing in companies, and we have good experience in stock markets. But let's say a hypothetical situation where suddenly the stock market goes down. So how do you think about risk in such a situation in our last portfolio?
No, Vishal, we have taken adequate margin in this. Apart from that, as Chandan has already told, we know the borrowers, we have worked with them in other aspects. So we are very cautious of that, and we don't work with even the RBI has prescribed a 50% margin, and we are not working with less than that margin, and that margin is maintained on weekly basis and monitored. Yeah.
Okay. So if they are not able to meet, then you will liquidate.
Yeah. It's only opportunity-based lending. Sometimes we are surplus of funds and we come across a good opportunity, and this is not a focus area. Neither we market ourselves on the less portfolio. So it's only a small, sometimes opportunity-based lending, and when we are surplus and sitting on funds, and then we sometimes look at this kind of opportunity also.
Okay. If I come to our loan against properties, demand and supply in real estate is function. It's function of the economy. So when the economy goes down, probably the demand and the price of the real estate will also go down. So let's say you face a challenge that your customer is not able to pay. So in that case, how difficult or easy is to liquidate that property?
Vishal, I would like to answer this question too. The first question is, I would like to understand that you are mentioning or discussing this about the WS Lab portfolio only, that is related to the wholesale segment, right?
Right.
So look, the lab portfolio, that's also a very much a kind of opportunity-based lending. The promoter's profile is very much strong. Apart from that, we only do lab on a very much selective basis where the property value is very much high, property is marquee and easily and readily sellable into the market. Otherwise, we don't want to make it as a separate product or don't want to grow it into like a kind of a middle product. It's just a kind of an opportunity-based lending where we find that the property is very much good and there is a kind of gap or kind of a cash flow requirement on the customer part. The profile as well as the property part is very much strong here. Further, the LTV part, we are very much comfortable. Generally, we do LTV in lab cases at an LTV below than 50% or it would be around 40 to 30% only.
Right, okay. So in a affordable housing portfolio, typically what's the size of the project to which we fund to and what's the collateral we take apart from the receivables?
Okay. So the wholesale large part, that's a portfolio of around 160 crore. Actually, we divide this part into the two kind of segment. That is a mid-housing segment and second one is the affordable or a kind of DD. So affordable housing portion, we need to understand that's a special scheme approved by Haryana government that's under 2000 in year 2016 itself. That's the AHP policy 2016. So here the demand and supply, like the payment plan is very much predictive. What happens that the customer used to book or the developer used to publish a lottery kind of system from where the customer used to put for a request for the allotment part, right? And in the first phase itself, the most of the affordable housing, if the good location is good and developer is good, then the most of the affordable housing is sold at the first go itself. So the collateral in this part would be the hypothecation of the receivable. That is very much predictive and that comes into the interval of around 6 months for in a period of 3 years.
And we have a lien on the complete project.
Yes.
We have a complete charge on their cash flows. We have the whole cash. The cash flow comes into the escrow account where we have a complete control and the complete project is mortgaged with us. And if you see, most of our affordable housing projects have been sold on day one. So, and their collections come after every 6 months. So it is a very predictable kind of a cash flow structure and we just have to monitor that the cash flows are being used for the construction. And after RERA and after IBC, now even the builders are very, very cautious and very, you can say they know their obligation. And we have not seen that any of our affordable housing is getting delayed and all are being getting delivered on their due dates or before the due date. And the ticket size of the apartment is around 25 lakhs, which is very, very affordable. And if the location is good and the builder enjoys a good reputation, the sales happen on the very first day, which happens through a lottery system and which is being monitored by HDFC Bank. So it's DTCP2 and DTCP2 the local the state government, and so it's a very unique and a very comfortable segment for us, and we have not seen challenges in any of the accounts at any moment of time in the affordable housing projects.
So typically this is only Haryana.
Yeah, it's a typical policy only for Haryana, Deen Dayal scheme and affordable housing scheme. It is typically for Haryana, based in Faridabad, Gurgaon, Sonipat, Sohna, and these are the areas where we look at mostly.
And we are the only lenders to the project. I mean, there's no joint.
We are the only lender. In whole of the wholesale portfolio, whether it's small or large, we are the single lender. And we have done some transaction as a co-lender also, where another NBFC is a part of under the co-lending, but the whole of onboarding, monitoring, and day-to-day monitoring of the account and taking any decisions and control of escrow and the operations are being looked by us only. So we onboard that co-lender sometimes because of the size and otherwise the complete control rests with us.
Okay, and one last question, sir, Rohit. So in the past, you have spoken about some of the challenges we faced with some of the hirings we had done, probably 5-6 years back. And so is there any learning that you had from that experience? And when we hire the new guys that you are doing now, what are the qualities you look for in the new senior level hirings?
Yeah, we definitely face few challenges, and as there always is a learning curve. We started our retail in 2016-17, and as we started, even the external circumstances after ILFS and DHFL and now COVID and all those also changed the whole paradigm, and we learned from that hiring. Now we are very cautious, and earlier we learned certain mistakes, and the hiring which we have done is done with a long-term perspective and with much more clarity both from the company side and the person who is joining us, and he knows the challenges and what the company aspires from those people, and definitely we have learned a lot, and we are much more cautious, and our quality of hiring has improved, and we face certain challenges in our sales, junior sales people at the branches, and now we have tightened that area also. And sometimes when you want to hire and want to get people at a shorter notice period, certain you can say there were certain deficiencies prior to that. Now we have totally overhauled our HR policy around hiring, and these most of the challenges were in our retail segment, and now we have learned a lot, and the learning is a continuous process. But now, yes, definitely the things which we have witnessed earlier will be much lesser going forward.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'll come back.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rupesh Jain from Intel Sense Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hello, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. My question to you is what I have seen is roughly we do 90 to 100 crore disbursement every quarter, and roughly 70-75 crore, get repaid back every quarter. That's the rough run rate. If I see some fluctuation here and there, of course. So, and then we have this aspiration, to get to a 500 crore kind of AUM in next, let's say, 12 to 18 months. So, to let's say if we want to add 50 crores of net AUM every quarter, this disbursement run rate has to, go to 75 plus 50 plus maybe some more run down on the new book. So roughly 140-150 crore kind of, quarterly run rate. So how, I mean, do you have that kind of, inquiry pipeline, project due diligence team? Where are we on that? Because we otherwise, I mean, how do we go from here to there? I would like some clarity on that, sir.
Yeah. First few things, like the little wholesale business is not the same as which is the retail one. In some quarters, our collection has been much higher, and certain quarters it's little lesser. So disbursement depends to some extent on our collections also. And for last, coming to your second part of the question, in terms of pipeline, we have built a very strong presence in our NCR, and we always had a very strong pipeline, and the only limiting factor last 18 months has been COVID, where 6-9 months were disrupted, and we were not able to meet customers physically and see their projects, and our collections have been very strong. And as I told in my opening remarks, we are now focusing more on a larger tenure projects as compared to earlier. Our accounts used to get totally repaid in 18 months. Now we are focusing that the account should get repaid between 24 to 30 months. And very frankly, the only limiting factor is to build our leverage ourselves and to raise debt, and which we are working on. And hopefully, we should be seeing good debt raising in this quarter, and we have aspirations to reach the target which you have mentioned in next 12 months, and we definitely think that we will be able to do it. The only limiting factor has been the raising of the debt, and in last 18 months we were more focused on maintaining our balance sheet strength and maintaining the quality. And now, as we have passed that period, and as you can see that in last 4 years we faced lot of unforeseen circumstances, starting from demonetization, RERA, GST, and COVID phase, and we have been able to see that phase reasonably well, and our confidence has increased, and now our focus is on the growth side. And
Okay. So can you give some numbers, sir? Like let's say we have, I don't know, 300 projects in inquiry stage, evaluation, due diligence. Some numbers can you give, and then maybe the sizes.
Hello, can you just speak little loudly? I'm not able to.
Yeah. Sir, what I'm saying is, if you can give, some number that, 300 projects are under due diligence, average ticket size is, I don't know, 30 crore, 50 crore, some kind of number, if you can give it to us.
I'm not able to understand what you're saying. The pipeline, what we have.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
On the wholesale side, we have a pipeline of 150 crores as of now, which we, along with co-lender, will be doing in next 1.5 months, and which our component may be around 40 to 50, 60 crores. And the SME, we think that we should be able to do 6 to 7 crores per month going forward from December onwards. And our October month has been reasonably good as compared to last 18 months. So, and now we are also focusing on raising our debt, because that will be also a critical element in growing ourselves. And we are in discussions with a lot of PSUs, and because that is the area we think that we will be able to keep our cost of borrowing under control, and we believe in growing ourselves profitably with reasonable names, and we are very hopeful that we should be having a growth after 2 years, and a reasonably good growth after 2 years.
Okay. And then, sir, if you can hear me, a little bit long-term question, let's say 3-4 years down the line, your disbursement and overall scale, has to go to 3x. I mean, we pretty much have to disburse 250-300 crore kind of, quarterly run rate if we look at a little bit medium term. And to get to that kind of number, we, as you said, we have to increase the duration, or we also have to increase the ticket size, right? And these things involve certain risk, and then you have managed very well in the last cycle.
We have a very strong pipeline always on the both wholesale and the SME. There were certain limitations that SME the growth was not happening, and the focus was more on collections. But now we have increased our team, so we will not be increasing our ticket size. We have reasonably very good pipeline with us. The only limiting factor as of now, very frankly, has been that we should be able to raise debt, and we are focusing on that, raising and debt and improving our credit rating, which will help us to raise debt.
Okay. So I mean, even medium term in terms of
till we achieve certain size, our ticket size will not increase.
Okay, sir. Okay, so in at least medium term, in terms of only debt raising is the only thing that is pending. Team and pipeline and everything is in place.
24 months post ILFS, there were little concerns for the NBFC segment, and our collections had been so strong, and in the interim the COVID came, and so we were always sitting on very strong collections, so we never ever faced the challenge of limitation of the funds. And now the focus is on growth, and earlier it was to maintain our balance sheet quality, and now the focus is on growth on both the side, wholesale and retail. And you can see from last year we have added around 60 people, 50 people on our employee strength. It has increased by roughly 33%, and it's a sizable number.
Okay. And just last question, sir, what will be roughly any range on cost of debt?
Now we are at around 10.25%.
And new debt you are looking to raise, it will be similar cost of funds?
We are looking in that range only.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Siddharth Agarwal from Prudent Value Partners. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, Rohit, and thanks for giving this opportunity. Rohit, my first question is, as you already explained, our disbursement in SME segment were quite muted in spite of the economic activities picking up. So how has it been for October, both the disbursement as well as the collection efficiency in SME segment? Is it picking up?
I think Amit, the CEO for the SME segment will explain little much better in detail.
Yeah. Hi, Siddharth. Amit this side. I'm looking after SME retail piece. In terms of your question, in October, we have seen an unprecedented jump in the terms of, sanction and disbursements both. So we started at a very nascent stage since I joined in July. So we started from zero to now we are doing at least 4.5 crores of disbursal month on month basis. And we intend to take it to at least by this financial year end, at least 8 to 9 crores monthly disbursal from entire branch network. In terms of collections, we have been doing reasonably well on the total collection, which has raised to around 96% of collection we have been doing month on month basis now. So we see a lot of changes in terms of collections efficiency as well as with the team building and business happening on a daily basis. So the total trajectory is an upward trend, and we are moving in a very positive way in each and every direction wherever we are based out of.
Okay. And I noticed that we have also rolled out several branches in, over the time, Gujarat and Haryana, Rajasthan. So I assume quite some of these branches at least would have stabilized. Could you talk a little bit more about give us some more visibility on the regional performance of our book? How is it shaping up, or which are some some breakdown of our SME book across these markets? Where is it scaling up? Where we are still, or any regions where we are still struggling?
No, by the time when the second COVID hit, it was definitely we were struggling. Entire industry was struggling. But post second wave, we are working on all the verticals, whether it is operations, credit, collections, and we have been hiring good talent from the market. And post that, we have simultaneously we have also started penetrating into our presence, whether it is in Gujarat, Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab. And if you can see, like I said in earlier comment, that we are into upward trajectory. So everywhere from a very little bit, we have started stabilizing few of the branches, and we see a lot more business coming from Rajasthan, because Rajasthan is a beautiful market, and we have been doing reasonably well on branch to branch basis, whether it is Jaipur, Ajmer, Jodhpur, and also in Delhi NCR as well, because we have opened up Noida branch, and in the second month only we disbursed around 65 lakhs with a small manpower of 1 or 2 RMs. And we intend to stabilize Delhi NCR, Rajasthan, Gujarat as well have been started showing good numbers, because we have changed our the way we have been working earlier. We have changed our entire processes and product, and it is made more customer friendly in terms of acquisition of the customers in future as well as in present scenario also. So we have a focus on Rajasthan tier 2, tier 3 cities, Gujarat tier 2, tier 3 cities, as well as Punjab. We are very cautious in Haryana because we have not been able to get good portfolio there. So we are trying to go very cautious in that area. But yes, Punjab, Delhi NCR, Rajasthan, Gujarat have started showing good numbers, and we intend to stabilize these first. Then only we will go for expansion in next financial year. In terms of processes, there are many changes which we have developed here. We have infused lot of technology also, like to avoid fraud kind of activities, fraud client coming into. So best of the APIs we are getting integrated into our current system, as well as we are building up new system which will help us in getting into a digitalized mode into new financial year, which is we are, as far as if you ask me, we are gearing up for FY 22-23 with a regular disbursal of around 7 to 8 crores from coming month.
Okay, fine. Could you please speak a little bit about our school portfolio? I mean, what is our current total outstanding in the school portfolio? And, how has been the disbursement as well as collection in the first half FY22? And do you see the performance improving now? Or how has been the experience as the school must have started reopening?
I think our total gross portfolio 12 months back was around 24 crores, out of which during the COVID period, 40 to 50% clients were paying and 50% were not paying. And so our 12 crores portfolio was into DPD, out of which we have already provided around 7 crores for that. But and prior to COVID, only one account was into DPD. So most of the schools are based in tier 3, tier 2, tier 3 cities are semi-rural in kind, and they were not offering any kind of online facility to the students, and either the students had that kind of infra to go through the online. And now what we have witnessed, our collection has improved from 50% to 70% in this month, and 70% of our clients are now paying 1 or 2 EMIs. The only problem is that they are not coming out of the NPA because they have the 7 to 10, 15 EMIs are pending, and I think in next 6 to 9 months, more and more accounts will become regular, and if the next 12 months we don't foresee any kind of problem from the schools remain open, we are very hopeful that most of the schools will become regular, and we have built a very strong legal team in last 2-3 months, and as during COVID phase, most of the courts were not working, and that part was also slow. But now our legal team has been strengthened a lot, and it is helping us to recover to make our existing accounts regular. So schools, 10% of our schools can see that they may not be able to operate, or they may see a very low strength in terms of students, and then the deterrent in terms of the collateral what we have taken will come into play, may through legal process or may through the recovery process, but that will be a very minuscule small amount, maybe 10 to 15% of the total portfolio. And we have already provided out of 24 crores, we have already provided 7 crores. So you can see, or more 25 to 30% has already been provided.
This used to be a good segment for us. Is there? Do you foresee that this segment coming back for us as a growth area in the next year, or do you?
Definitely. But, next 4 to 5 months in this financial, we may not be doing any fresh business, and we want to see how our existing accounts perform, and then definitely we are funding the cash flows, and primarily, and the cash flows had been very, very consistent, and this 18 months nobody could have thought that school will remain closed for such an extended period, and all the other segments have opened and schools are just opening now, and definitely we have had a lot of learning, and we have built our domain knowledge in this segment. We will definitely start lending again in the next financial year to this segment again also.
Okay. And Rohit, we also noticed that our net debt has increased from 86 crore to almost 110 crore in this first half of this year. So what is the cost of our incremental borrowing as well as the average cost currently?
The cost has remained same. The weighted cost is around 10.25. This increase of 0.5% has happened because State Bank, from where we had the credit working capital facilities, as their policy, they have converted all their working capital facility to term loan to all of the NBFCs, not with us. As a matter of, they said we will not be giving cash credit facility or working capital WCDL facility to NBFCs, and they converted all those limits into term loan. And as per their policy, term loans are priced little higher, 0.5 to 0.75 basis higher as compared to their WCDL and CC limits. So because of that, because SBI being the largest lender, our cost has increased by 0.5%, and what further borrowings we are intending in the same cost.
Okay. And you also mentioned that our credit rating is also one of the monitorable for us. So when is it up, due for review next?
So we will go for review and hopefully let's see how it plays out. And earlier the people had the credit rating just used to have a apprehension about basically two things: the exposure on the real estate side, which we always used to tell that we are doing it very differently. We are into affordable segment, we are into last mile funding, we are into builder flows which are very, very stable. And the COVID was one lift, and the second is the geographical concentration, which is a big concern that come out. And we always say that we would like to remain in our area of strength, and as we go, then we will spread ourselves to other geographies. So these has been 2-3 major concerns about of the rating agencies, and let's hope that
last meeting we did in April, and it's, I think they're due for in October or November, in November itself. Next February, sorry. Right. And apart from that, I would also like to add one more point to that. The thing is that in April itself, when our rating was done, so we were discussing, there were some positive as well as the covenant, negative covenants that the rating agencies used to mention into their rating reports. So on a positive covenant part, we have achieved almost all the things, and that's why we fighted for that upgrading our rating itself. But just for the sake of COVID, that the period was under the COVID itself, and they are little susceptible on the real estate part, they have given the reason that we would take or look for upgrade in the next review itself. Otherwise, there is nothing or not a single negative covenant that we have hit it. All the positive covenants on the rating part has been achieved by us.
Okay, great. One final question about a wholesale book. So in the NCR, especially the region where we, most of our assets are there, so demand in real estate seems to have revived, and the property prices, especially the land prices, have been up sharply across NCR, and the demand seems to be strong. The builder floor seems to be selling well, and the inventory seems to be getting down. But somehow that has not translated into a wholesale AUM growth. The relative growth has not been as strong, given from what we hear anecdotally for the real estate sales volume. So could you speak a little bit about it? Is it a conscious decision to not grow the wholesale book, accelerate that, or is it just some timing issue here?
Siddharth, the point is that, and look, Rohit has very much clearly mentioned that there are the two major constraints that due to which we were unable to grow our wholesale book. The first constraint was the raising of the funds itself, that we were little limit on the fund part, and the second part that the post-COVID, that the first phase itself, in that is in September, September last year, we have seen a very much surge in the collection part. The collections were so tremendously good that it funded our internal requirement of the wholesale disbursement itself. If you go by the number itself, on quarter-on-quarter basis, we have, on monthly or month-on-month basis, we used to receive or collect around 20 to 24.5 crore rupees per month. So the collections were so much robust that that internal requirement of the portfolio growth numbers is not demonstrated on the AUM part. Otherwise, disbursements were good, and if we go continue with the same trend, we would be able to achieve our target in coming close of this financial year.
In this quarter, few of our transactions which were due to close in September, yes, but as sometimes due to credit and other diligence part, it got postponed, and those transactions are closing in this last week of November and first week of December. So, and at the end of the day, the wholesale is a little lumpy both in terms of disbursement and collection. Sometimes one quarter performs extraordinarily very good, and the other quarter, because this transaction diligence, all those take time, and nowadays lot of to and fro happens both on the negotiations and so many part of the covenant between the borrower and the lender.
Okay. Great. Thanks a lot, Rohit, and everyone for patiently answering the questions. I'll go back in the queue.
Thank you. A reminder to our participants, please press star and 1 if you wish to ask a question. The next question is from the line of Dharmesh Patel as an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, please.
Almost all the questions are answered. I just have one question. So we are overly concentrated in just one region and one segment, that is wholesale, and Delhi NCR. Are we doing anything to reduce our concentration in just one region and in wholesale? Like if we can go in retail and school segments, which may be facing problems right now, but they are generally a good set to have on books. What are we doing for that?
Ramesh, you rightly said, our focus is to grow retail, but in COVID phase, the focus was more on collection, and we were cautious. We want to see how the economy comes back, and that's why we have seen a decline in that segment. If you see, as our employee strength has increased from 117 to 163, all those people have been added on the retail side only. So our focus is to grow the retail. On the school side, we have explained earlier, we will be just not doing it in the next 3-4 months. But if all the schools open and remain open during next 5 months, we will open that segment from the next financial year. Before COVID, it has been really very good segment for us. So we are just on wait and watch and focusing on our existing collections of existing accounts, and we will start opening it. So our focus is to build retail, but at the same time, we don't want to lose sight of our wholesale, which has been done extremely good for last since we have started our lending, and we have learned a lot of lessons during this phase itself. As of now, I would not say that every account has been straight, but where there has been certain difficulties, we were able to manage it, and we always take a lot of lessons from account which has been a little difficult. So those learnings have made us much more confident, and now we aim to grow both the segments. And given a choice, retail will be the first one, and we are focusing on that. And Amit has also explained earlier, a lot of effort is going on all ways through processes and totally digitalizing our retail segment. And we have added a lot of APIs to improve the fraudulent logins, and the numbers have started improving, and we should be seeing good numbers from the next month.
And one more question, sir. Sir, in schools, do we face any competition from big players like private bankers like SBI, CICI?
Everybody is absent from school. Semi-rural or rural. I have not seen anybody of my account getting taken over, even the good ones, which have not defaulted. So everybody is cautious right now. Even the Indian School Finance, which was quite active, Varthana, who were dedicated school finance companies, I have not seen that they are active in our part of the region. I don't know about the south and the central. And so everybody is on a wait and watch. So schools were closed. Who will dare to fund them except tier 1?
Okay. Yes, sir. And any plans to move into tier 1 schools in big cities, like if we can provide funding for them?
Their IRRs will go down drastically. Then the same thing can go even for our retail segment. So we only want to build our domain knowledge and focus in tier 2, tier 3 cities, which is a little underbanked. And so we want to build our domain knowledge, we want to just focus on that area only. So the tier 1 we will not be focusing. Even their requirement in terms of per ticket size will go up, which we limit ourselves to 30-40 lakhs. On an average, it is 18 to 20 lakhs. In tier 1, it will go up to more than 1 CR. And the competition is much higher in terms of IRR. So in the immediate period, it will not be. And as we grow and build our size and by cost of funds and everything, then we can focus, come to that part also.
And one more question, sir. We have a presence in Rajasthan, Gujarat, Haryana, and Punjab, which are like very good in terms of loans. They normally NPAs are less. Are we planning to go deep into these states, penetrate into smaller cities? Like in Gujarat, we have 4 cities where we have branches. But can we go into smaller cities like Himmatnagar, Gandhinagar, which are also good cities?
Yeah, this is Amit. Basically, you have asked the right question. But the current focus is to stabilize all our 20 branches first, And we have a pipeline and we have a total planning for expansion in FY 22-23. And the idea is to go into tier 2, tier 3 cities and adding more strength to the branch which is already present there. So like Gandhinagar, you said, we will be focusing more into Rajasthan and Gujarat as well as other states also, but it will be like a cluster approach we are going to do. 3 to 4 branches into the same cluster within the radius of around 30 kilometers. And we are identifying those areas where we can get a profitable business which are unbanked and underserved. So rightly said that Gandhinagar is there on our map, as well as we are focusing on Haridwar in Uttarakhand, which is still a very good market for SME. So Haridwar, Roorkee, Rishikesh, though we will be opening up with Haridwar, but we will be mapping Rishikesh and Roorkee with the Haridwar branch, and Dehradun we are already present. So this becomes one cluster. So this example we will follow in the rest of the geographies where we are present. We are going to make 3 to 4 branches as a cluster, and will penetrate in those areas, get more of the business from our feet there, and develop more profitable portfolio from those areas.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anyone who wishes to ask a question at this time, they may please press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Vishal Prasad from VP Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi there. 2 more questions from my side. So, based on the earlier question that another participant had asked, the way we are trying to grow our loan book, what would be the 2-3 challenges we see which can stop us from growing the way we are trying to grow? I mean, we can assume that COVID will not be a concern going forward.
The major 2 will be to how we are able to leverage ourselves because we want that our cost of borrowing should remain under control, and one of the factors that will determine is the rating also. And so in terms of business, in wholesale, we have no challenges as we are doing a lot of business with the co-lender, and we have now started to look to downsell our existing accounts, which will add to our profitability. And so we can look for many options at the same time, build our size through co-lending, through downselling, and we can do the same activity in the retail also. So that will help us to grow our size and build our market presence. And at the same time, we will focus on building our leveraging ourselves, and we are focusing on trying to improve our rating also. And so we're working towards going to totally digitalized on the SME side. It will help us to improve that, help us to improve processes, and so sum total it will help us. And even if constraint of debt, what we want to raise, if we are not able to raise in the next 6 to 9 months, then we have a lot of options on the co-lending side. We'll use that to increase our market presence, and that will also increase our profitability. So we are working on all the fronts. They are definitely the major 2 factors that will limit our growth will be ability to raise debt at the right cost, and that is the major one. And apart from, because we are small, building our, in terms of having a pipeline both on the retail and now with the existing team and on the wholesale is not a huge challenge going forward.
Right. So why I ask this is, I mean, if I look at last 3-4 years, due to IL&FS and COVID, and due to our being very prudent, we have not been able to grow. So do you think, are we too risk averse?
No, we can't. We are not risk averse. We were a little more prudent because COVID, when the phase 1 came, we thought that we don't know what will happen to real estate, the way the equity markets reacted, and all the shops and all those were closed for extended period of 2.5 months. So we thought if we focus on growth and we lose on our balance sheet quality strength or quality, so the major concerns from the lenders and the rating agencies will immediately come. and we thought, let us sacrifice the growth and maintain our balance sheet strength and quality of the balance sheet. So it was a little giveaway, and if we had built a little, the NPA would have increased both on the wholesale or in the retail. So then you and everybody concerned would have been on that side also, and our ability to raise funds would have decreased a lot. So we thought as a smaller company, because any small NPA in terms of percentages starts getting reflected in your books, and that was one of the major concerns. So, so we thought that let's focus on maintaining our balance sheet strength, and we'll look for growth after the COVID phase ease.
Okay. The next question is, I mean, we talked about the changes we have brought in within the company in terms of processes and all. So can we talk about few changes that we have brought in, and what are the benefits we are trying to get out of the changes we have made?
So Vishal, Amit this side, certain changes which we have brought into entire process and product, the way we were doing SME retail earlier. So what we have done, we have infused a lot of technology inside. For example, you must be aware about Karza technology, which we use for KYC checks and norms. There is a CIBIL and Equifax, which we are using for applications.
Basic, these are basic.
Yeah, the basic. Then we are also integrated a ScoreMe, which analyzes banking to ascertain how many inward and outward, what is the banking health of that particular client. And we are doing field investigation also digitally at a central level. So all these things are already in a process, and we are already working on those. And then we have done payment integration also. So in the past 4 to 5 months, the way we have worked is that we have accelerated on the digital mode, because we will face challenges from fintech companies who are already on a digital platform. So partially we have already made, and we are already in a developing phase of our new system, through which all the processes, all the logins to disbursal, most of the thing happens on the system itself. Though loan against property is something which cannot be completely digitalized, so 70 to 80% processes will be completely digitalized by the end of this financial year. 30-40% we have already done. So the penetration in terms of a small retail segment we are trying to do, we are getting good results in the beginning itself.
We are moved from DSA to DSC also.
Yeah, and moreover, this SME retail is a segment which is a direct sourcing, more of micro marketing, more of micro management. So from the strategy point of view, we have moved from DSA to DST, where more of RM are there in the system now. They are going in the market, doing micro level activity, generating fresh leads, which means fresh people coming on the portfolio, rather than a DSA sourcing a case for us, being with us for 6-7 months and going away. So that's the strategical change which we have made, and this is a sustainable model which is required for the NBFC to grow.
Okay, so I think in previous calls, Rohit mentioned that we don't compete with the new age app-based lenders. So is there something which has changed? I mean, are we competing with them? They are getting into non-KYC based lending?
It's the same. Vishal, it's still the same. What we are trying to make our processes so seamless and fast that we can compete with our segment of NBFC. We can go one step ahead with those NBFC, and we can capture more of clients, more of portfolio from those particular areas where all the NBFC in our segment is present. Obviously, fintech is there in our mind in terms of
mostly unsecured.
I'm totally unsecured. We are not on an unsecured mode. We are on a secure one. That's the reason we said 70 to 80% will be digital, and 30% will be obviously a physical.
The customer to have the document signed physically. So that part will still remain.
And we have built many checks in terms of onboarding a client. When at a local level, credit manager meets the client, but at a central level, we do video call also. We do call directly randomly to a client to understand their requirement, whether the local team has conveyed all the processes and policies of the company or not. So we want to be very transparent, and we want to create a quality portfolio. We don't want to make a name where something is promised and not delivered. So we want to promise the same and deliver the same.
Okay, got it. And last question, I mean, what is the break-even cost of a branch?
So break-even cost of the branch is as and when we reach 4.5 crores of a disbursal within 6 months. Maybe then that is a break-even because we don't have a cost on, we identify a very low-cost branch and with a low-cost, things inside. It's not like a big bank or a big NBFC branch. And since we are present in tier 2, tier 3 cities, the cost of rent is also very low. And we have a branch composition of a branch manager, credit manager, and 4 RMs. So 6 to 7 people costing is there. So once we touch 4.5 crore to 5 crores of a portfolio and a monthly disbursal of 75 lakhs a month, that makes our break even.
Okay. You guys are building a good company. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vishal.
Thank you. Any participants who wish to ask a question at this time, they may please press star and 1.
I think there are no more questions.
Gentlemen, as there are no further questions from the participants, I now hand the conference over to Mr. Rohit Gupta for closing comments. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
I will again like to thank everyone in participating in this half-yearly con call, and look to see back again with much more promising numbers and what we have talked about in our when we do a con call after the year end. And thanks again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Kanav Capital Advisors, that concludes today's call. Thank you all for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.